Brothers, and then
Okay.
you can start.
So yeah, I was saying that even if it's not a concept album, I think there is a strong thematic thread throughout the album. All the lyrics talk about, I'd say, fatalism or destiny or fate or whatever you want to call it. Perhaps I'd say a sense of inevitable collapse. You cut a head of the Hydra, but obviously two heads come out. Triskaideka, which talks about the bad luck. How much? This is the question. How much of that lyrical tone comes from Travis, which I guess is now completely involved in composition, in the compositional work at the band? How much of this lyrical tone comes from Travis, and how much is something you consciously wanted to channel musically? When I say you, I'm talking about obviously you, Ben, but also
Mhm.
Dana and Jeff.
Yeah.
How much of this, I'd say, dark, deep tone you wanted to convey musically, it's because of you, and how much is because of Travis?
I think it's a combination of all of us. We sort of put forth this style and this, mystery factor into the music and the lyrics. A lot of the lyrics were written by Travis on the album, most of them actually. Jeff Lords wrote some lyrics. I wrote some for Triskaideka, and I think Dana contributed a little bit. But yeah, it just kind of comes from all of us, but primarily Travis on this record.
Okay. Now I'm going to talk about two specific tracks which are broken together and beyond the unknown. For me, this is also a personal opinion, but for me, those two tracks stand out. I mean, they are, I'd say, from an emotional and compositional point of view, I think they are highlights of the album. They are fucking awesome. Broken together and beyond the unknown. What do those songs represent for you personally? And how did they come together in the studio? I don't know, perhaps from the compositional point of view, did you make them anew for this album? Perhaps some riffs were taken from the past, from this album that didn't come to be with Midnight in 2007, the
Mhm.
Metatron and Lucifer and the Divine
Yeah.
Punishment. I think it was the title, or from the Todd La Torre era, or were they made anew? These two
Yeah,
songs.
everything was made new in the last 3 years. Nothing was leftover ideas or anything. Everything's fresh. Beyond the Unknown started out with a riff that I had come up with and made a demo of and let the guys hear it, and they kind of liked, the style of the riff, and they said it was very crimson-y. It was kind of the opening, not the acoustic part in the song. That was something Travis came up with. But when the whole band kicks in with the drums and everything, it's the opening theme riff you hear there was something I came up with, and Jeff liked it, and he added a bunch of cool things to it. And Travis then wrote a bunch of lyrics for it, and just the song just kind of grew. You know, it's from an
Mhm.
idea that I brought in, and then it turned into a complete band song. Definitely one of the very most Crimson-like songs on the record. I like it a lot too, with the guitar
Okay.
parts and even the way he sings it. It's got a good Crimson feel.
Indeed, indeed it is.
Beyond
Um,
the Unknown, another very that was the music was written by Jeff and the lyrics by Travis, and just a very cool song. It's one of the most catchy, I think, anthem-like songs on the record. It sounds like a real big like rock anthem.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so you agree those two are awesome songs.
Yeah, yeah, I think those are two of my favorites from the record too. I mean, I like all the songs, but those two definitely sit high on the pile for sure.
Okay. I think we're
Yeah.
losing connection.
Yeah, it
Uh,
seems that we
No,
miss you a
we're
little
fine.
bit
We're
here.
fine again. We're fine again. We're fine again.
I
Okay.
can hear you guys. Yeah.
Okay,
Perfect.
my next question. Now we're back to the lyrics. Angel in My Nightmare, Incredible Ashes, and Pearls of Dust deal with death. I mean, they deal with death, with the loss of someone, of the passing of someone close. In fact, Pearls of Dust talks about the death of a comrade in arms at war. I think the music industry is akin to a war in many ways. So.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, because it's inevitable when we're talking about the first album of Crimson Glory after Midnight's death. Three songs that talk about death. I don't know if this is a deliberate reference or homage to Midnight, or if those themes came out from a broader, most personal place and have nothing to do with Midnight.
No, they really don't have anything to do with midnight. They're just stories, and things that we create, ideas that come up, and the Indelible Ashes song. It's not really about any specific person who's gone, but just about the idea of such a memory, And Angel on My
Okay.
Nightmare is just another just kind of mysterious song, and it speaks of an angel and someone's nightmare, but it's not about anyone specifically. You know,
Okay. Okay.
they're
Well,
just fresh concepts that came to our heads and came in.
okay. Okay. Now, my next question is not about the album on itself, but about the live shows you're going to perform, and particularly about the show you're going to perform here in Spain this summer. We are expecting it. You're going to play at Rock Imperium, which is one
Hmm.
of the biggest festivals, metal festivals here in Spain. And my first question is regarding one of the headliners of this festival. You're going to be there with a band which is called Sabaton, Swedish band, which is led by Joachim Brodden, the
Hmm.
singer. Joachim Brodden is a guy that has in multiple times, basically every time he has a chance, this guy has always stated his admiration for Crimson Glory. The leader of Sabaton has stated that
Yeah.
he's a big fan of Crimson Glory. So my question is, um, do you? I mean, Crimson Glory and Sabaton. Have you had any contact between you? Is there mutual awareness between the bands, or even a possibility of crossing paths musically?
Um. y- yeah. I mean, we did a tribute show for Midnight back in 2009 here in Atlanta, Georgia, at a festival called Prague Power, and it was a
Mhm.
full tribute show to Midnight, in which all the other bands that were playing the festival, their singers came up and sang a song with us to tribute Midnight. So the singer from Sabaton came up and sang with us that night, and he sang one of the songs. And him, and along with a lot of other, famous singers, were there. So we met him then, and he took part in our tribute show to Midnight. And I realized that he's a fan of the band. In fact, one of their songs comments about one of our songs in the lyrics, I think. And definitely those guys are cool, very cool band. And then we played at the Sabaton Festival that they have in Sweden back in 2012 when Todd was in our band. They have their own festival in Sweden, just called Sabaton Festival, and we
Yeah.
played on the festival. So yeah, we've crossed paths with him in the band a couple of times, and I don't know him very well, but we've met, and super cool guy, and we like that he has such a fondness for Crimson Glory.
Okay. And also regarding the Rock Imperium Festival, another band which is going to be there is Queensrÿche. And obviously, his singer is your former bandmate, Todd La Torre. My question is, do you stay in touch with Todd La Torre? And if you do, is there a chance to do something special on stage with them, considering you're going to be together at this festival or in other festival? I don't know, a duet, a dual voice rendition of chasing the of chasing Garden of Shadows with Travis and La Torre,
Mm.
a dual voice performance or something like that.
Um, yeah, I do stay in touch with Todd. We call each other once in a while, not all the time because we're both busy, but we met up for lunch last year, and he's a very
Mhm.
cool guy. We're always going to be friends. There's always a possibility that he could come up and guest on a song with us. That's for sure something we'd be happy to do. We haven't really talked to him about it or anything, but if we ever get to being in the same festival and talking, prior and saying, "Hey, you want to come up and sing a song with Travis?" If he would like to, we would love him to do it. It would be a lot of fun for sure. I don't
Okay,
know. I
well,
don't think it would be. I don't think it would be Garden of Shadows. I think it would just be something from our classic catalog that maybe Todd would join in on.
Okay. Well, if Todd La Torre, if you're watching this, you have a chance at Rock Imperium, so so
Of
remember it.
course. Yeah.
And now,
I mean, maybe I'll speak to him before then and, let him know that, the invitation's always open if he wants to step out on stage and sing with us. I'm sure
okay.
he knows. I'm sure he knows he's very welcome.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's fine. Well, now I'm going to let Pere keep on with the questions because we have a section at the magazine which deals with metal masterpieces, with retro reviews of metal masterpieces, and following the 40th anniversary of your debut album, Pere, my colleague, is going to make this retro review on, I think it's on October, next
Mm-hmm.
October, the 40th anniversary of the Crimson Glory debut album. And so,
Mm-hmm.
Pere, now it's your turn. I think he's going to start by making some questions that, regarding this retro review, are going to take us down memory lane. So, please, Pere, it's
Okay.
your turn now.
Exactly.
All right,
So
man.
now it's the time to review the band's history. So to begin with, we would like to know how was Crimson Glory formed and what's the reason behind your band's name?
Well, we were formed in the early 80s, 83 around then when Dana Brunell and I, the drummer, had a band already going, and we eventually, sought out other members to fill in and make the right lineup that we were kind of searching for. And eventually Jeff and John and Midnight were with us, and we were, off and started with the band. We went by another name for a while, Beowulf, while we were still doing cover songs as a young band. We weren't even really doing originals yet. We were playing covers, and we eventually came to the decision we don't want to play cover songs anymore. We want to play all original music, and we really want to dedicate ourselves to that. And we want a new name. And one day we were all hanging out together at a house that Dana and Midnight and I shared, and we
Mhm.
all lived together there and rented a house. And there was a poster on the wall, like a framed picture that said Crimson Glory with three roses. And Dana looked over and said, "Hey guys, how about that for a band name?" And we all just kind of went, "Yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool." It was just like a framed poster art that Dana had hanging in the house. And we were thinking for weeks about what can we change the name to. One day we were all together at the same place at the same time, and we all looked up at this poster on the wall and just went, "Yeah, that's our name." So
It looks great, definitely.
yeah,
So, why
it's a
did you
type of a
decide to?
rose. A crimson glory is a type of a rose. It's like a species of a red rose.
Okay, didn't know that. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. So, why did you decide to wear masks on stage during your classic era? I feel it gave you kind of a Phantom of the Opera look that really enhanced Midnight's theatrical voice.
Yeah, I think it was a cool idea. It just spontaneously came about one day when John and our manager Warren were coming over to my house, and we were going to do a photo shoot that day, and they happened to stop at this costume shop along the way, and they picked up this mask just by chance, and they
Mhm.
brought it over and said, "Hey, we want to try this out with the photo shoot today and experiment with some things," and we just decided to use these masks as sort of a visual identity, sort of a striking image identity that everyone could, set us apart from every other band at the time. There were bands like Kiss and Alice Cooper that did a lot with makeup, but there weren't really too many bands or any that I know of at the time that were wearing like masks like that. So we did that, and some of the people thought it was a ridiculous idea, or other people thought it was just genius, so people thought it was I think it was a cool thing, for the time, and definitely gave us a visual image to go along with our music.
I'm guessing it was a little bit hot to wear that on stage.
Yeah, they were a little uncomfortable, the full face mask we wore on the first tour. They were not the most pleasant thing to try to wear while doing a show.
Especially in Sarasota, which is warm weather, you know?
Yeah, oh yeah, very warm. But after
Okay.
the first album, then we cut the mask down for the
Hmm.
second album into we each had an individual stylized cut mask and the Phantom of the Opera style, look. And those made things a lot more comfortable to tour and sing and wear them on stage.
Was
Now
easier.
you're back to the in the promotional material for Chasing the Hydra in the photos. You are back with the
Mm.
lighter version of the mask. Are you going to use them from now on stage?
No, I don't think so. It was just kind of an experimental phase when we did the photo shoot when we first got the band back together. And we wore them at a couple of shows. And I don't know. I don't think everybody was really feeling it like we wanted to keep doing it. We might redesign something and introduce some other style of mask at some point. But right now, we're just going without the masks and maybe bring something out for the encore just to kind of do something a little, traditional to the old thing.
Hmm. Good to know.
Yeah.
So, do you feel that between your two early masterpieces, Transcendence lends to more into progressive territory like Queensrÿche or like Hera Parent?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, after the first album, we got even a little, more technical on the second album, a little more streamlined with the arrangements and everything. I think people started to recognize us as they would call us a progressive metal band. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. So, I would like to know the meaning behind powerful ballads such as Lost Reflection or Painted Skies, because they seem really enigmatic. Do you usually write songs based on personal experiences or rather based on literature or movies?
Well, I mean, it could be anything, like the song Lost Reflection. Midnight wrote that after he had a dream that he was the guy locked in the attic, and it was just a dream that came to him, and so he wrote the song. And then Painted Skies was something he was writing. Originally, he was kind of playing it on a piano and singing some of the opening lines and showing us what he had for an idea. Then we sort of turned the piano parts he was playing into more of guitar parts, and the song grew from. It's turned out to be one of the fan favorites. Ever since the band's been around, that people really, really adore Painted Skies. We always play it at all the shows.
Mhm. So is Shanna from Lost Reflections based on any girl that he used to know, or?
No, I mean, it was actually there's this girl I used to date back in the '80s, and I was at her house, and
Mhm.
Midnight came up there one night to visit. It was late at night, and she had a party there, and then he came up there after the thing was all over, and we were all sleeping, and then he saw the house, and something about the house gave him a dream that night, and he dreamed that there was an attic and someone was being locked in the attic, and he had the idea that the girl I was dating was some sort of witch. We were just young, and we had vivid imaginations, and that's kind of how he had the idea for Lost Reflection. There was an actual real house that when he saw it, it it gave him a dream later that night, and then the next day he began writing the song.
Wow.
Curious, definitely.
Well, I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Yeah, it's
So
fine.
somewhere in St. Pete Beach, there's still a house where it kind of inspired Midnight's dream for Lost Reflection.
It's very fine to know that. Well,
We'll have
well,
to.
now you talk Imperi about transcendence, so the next step should be asking about Strange and Beautiful, but there's a problem because Strange and Beautiful is the sole Crimson Glory album where Ben Jackson didn't participate.
Yeah.
So I think for Strange and Beautiful, the question would be, how do you feel today about this album? I mean, um, do you feel comfortable playing songs from this album live, or do you prefer to leave it aside in live
Yeah.
shows because you did not participate in the album? What are
Um,
your feelings regarding the? Crimson,
You
the
know,
third Crimson Glory. Yeah.
we always have to talk about this, unfortunately. I'd rather just skip it. But but the album, it's very cool. It's a different vibe from Crimson Glory. John wanted to experiment with something different at that time, and I wasn't really on board with that stylistic change, and I was sort of pushed away at the time. And looking back on it, it's just a little piece of the band's history and the way things unfolded. I don't have any grudges or hard feelings about it or anything, and I like the record. I think there's a lot of good songs on it. It's a different style than what we sort of were developing on the first two records, and again, it was just an experimental phase in the band's history. Um, I don't think we'll be doing any of that material live. It doesn't really fit in well with the material from the first two albums or even the new album, because it's all very progressive metal music, built around two guitar players doing a lot of dual interplay. Everything on Strange and Beautiful is created more for one guitar player. There's saxophone parts and piano parts and female soul singers singing background parts. It was an experimental record for the guys. I don't think the material really fits in to what we're doing, and I don't think we'll do any of it live, to be honest.
Yeah, just for the record, I have to say that for me it's the worst Crimson Glory album, probably because Ben Jackson doesn't play on it. So
Well,
very,
I thank you for that,
very,
but I think it's a good record.
no, it's obviously it's a good record because it's a Crimson Glory record. But
Yeah,
for me,
yeah,
it's my my least preferred Crimson Glory record.
yeah.
So please, very sorry for the interruption. I'm
No,
No,
sorry.
it's
no.
okay. Seems
Uh,
we always have to talk about that.
Asking again from Strange and Beautiful, why did Midnight decided to leave the band after the release of Strange and Beautiful? If I'm not mistaken, years later, he was supposed to be the singer in Astronomica as well.
Yeah, after the album Strange and Beautiful came out, the guys put together a little, maybe 2 or 3 week long tour of some concert dates here in America. And they did the very first concert in Tampa, place called the Rocket Club. And Midnight had a bad show that night, and I guess wasn't doing too well. And the next morning, John fired him from the band and hired a different singer named David Van Landing to do the rest of the dates. And they went out and did another, 10 or so dates with David Van Landing. And then after that, they just sort of shut the band down, and the label dropped the band, and everything just kind of came to a halt there. So that's the only way I can really explain it. Midnight didn't really leave the band. He was sort of um, put out after one bad show because I don't know. That's kind of the way John operated back then. If he was happy with you, you stayed. If he wasn't happy with you, you were out. So, you know.
Well, things happen definitely. So after disbanding the band in 2014, how did your reunion took place 10 years later?
1999 Astronomica.
No, after
2013.
2013. So 10 years later, the band reunited. So how did this reunion came about?
Well, it was after we did that tribute show I was talking about for Midnight at Prague Power in 2009. We met Todd La Torre. He was one of the singers who sang with all the other great singers that night to tribute Midnight. And after that show, we had a feeling there was a spark there, something between Todd and us, and we thought he would be a great fit for the band. So in 2010, we invited him to join the band, and we started doing shows with Todd. The first show I think we ever did with Todd was in Atlanta, and it was in 2010. And then in the spring of 2011, we started touring Europe and playing festivals with Todd. And throughout 2011 and 12, we did many trips to Europe, many shows with Todd, and things were on a roll. But we were going to make a new record with him, And again, John sort of pulled out at one point, and his life was going in other directions, and he wasn't showing up. So Todd ended up leaving and joining Queensryche.
And what about the reunion in 2023? I mean, I have read that Travis was Jeff Lord's Facebook friend,
Yes.
and that's how it all began. Is there something of, was it like that?
Yeah, it was like that, and it's funny because they used to spar a little bit on Facebook over religious beliefs because Travis is a very religious man, a real believer, and Jeff is an atheist. So they would sometimes be on Facebook, kind of sparring about their ideas, who was right or who was wrong in their beliefs, in a friendly way, not arguing, but like a little bit of a friendly banter, and that's how they met each other and because they were on Facebook and and sparring a little bit about their ideas on religion. So then later, Dana and Jeff and I decided we wanted to bring the band back, and we were looking at a few different singers. We heard a couple great guys from Europe that showed us, some tapes. Eventually, Jeff said, "Hey, I know this guy in Texas. He sings in a band. Maybe we should look at him. He sings in a band called Infidel Rising over in Dallas." And so Jeff said, let's check him out. And we had to listen to Travis, and everything kind of grew from there. He seemed to be the right guy for us. Kind of funny story though, how those two actually became friends on Facebook because they would argue back and forth about who was right or wrong in their religious beliefs.
Kind of happens sometimes, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so now I would like to ask some classic story to rock questions. So the first one is for Popular One, which is the Spanish longest running music magazine. So, what are your
Mhm.
three favorite horror movies of all time?
Probably Night of the Living Dead, the original black and white. I really like that. The Exorcist, probably very good. And hmm, I don't know, probably The Shining with Stephen King with Jack Nicholson. Fantastic movie.
Kubrick is always great, yeah.
Good choices.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the first album you ever bought with your own money, whether it was earned or given to you?
Um, probably the first album I remember buying with my own money was the band Kansas, the album Left Overture that
Great.
had the song Carry On Wayward Son. I mean, I already had some albums. I was already a music fan, and I had an album collection, some albums my parents would give me as birthday presents or things. I had various albums from you know the Beatles and other bands. But I remember one day I had some of my very own money, and I had my bicycle, and I was riding down to the record store, and I had enough money to buy one record, and I went in and I had, just enough money, and it was my own money to buy one record. And I saw this album, Kansas Leftover Chore, and I said, I'm going to buy this record. And I took it home, and I wasn't disappointed. It was very good.
It,
Can see
no,
that
no,
really Kansas have influenced your music.
Yeah, I mean they're a progressive band as well, with the writing, and Steve Walsh was a fantastic singer, Kerry Livgren on guitar, Robbie Steinhardt, obviously on violin. They're a tremendous band. I was a fan. That album was inspired me, as well as their second album, Point of No Return. Really great stuff.
okay. Okay, well, the next classic question from Stairway to Rock would be, what's the first time you remember crying, if you ever cried, at a concert, which was not your own performance? I mean, what is, if you ever cried? If you didn't, that's
Oh,
fine. But what do
you
you?
know, I don't think I've ever cried at a concert, to be honest with you. I mean, I felt the emotional feeling of the power and presence of the whole experience, of course, many times, but I've never been moved so much as to actually cry while at a concert. I remember seeing, like AC/DC on the For Those Who Are About to Rock tour, and just thinking this is the most powerful, loud, you know, perfectly tight concert I've ever experienced. They were just so tight and so loud, and seeing Judas Priest on the Defenders of the Faith tour was definitely a highlight. One of my favorite concerts.
Hmm.
I saw,
Fantastic stuff.
yeah, I saw Ozzy Osbourne on the Diary of a Madman tour with Randy Rhoads. I got to witness Randy Rhoads in concert, so all very special memories for sure. I've seen a lot of great concerts that definitely stick with me in my memories.
Okay. And now the last classic question from the Stairway to Rock magazine. If you had unlimited resources and no constraints, I mean, money is not an issue. You have a lot of money and you have every possibility to do whatever you want to do in stage. I mean, what kind of stage show would you like to create? Something in the realm of shock rock, theatrical performance, lasers, fire, tanks, whatever you like, that you haven't been able to do yet.
Well, all of that sounds really interesting. I'd love to put on a big show with the fire and the fireworks and fire and amazing lights and everything, but I almost feel like to go too over the top with tanks and pieces of armor and giant things out there. I mean, it almost, then the fans, are they even looking at the band anymore? Or are they just looking at the spectacle of the whole, props and everything? So to me, I don't know. I don't get that excited to see a band with huge amounts of props on stage. You know, I rather just see a band in a smaller concert hall and just watch the guys play. Of course, with an amazing light show and maybe some fire and some smoke and stuff like that. You know, I get into more of a traditional concert experience. Just a really good sound, really tight band, and fans that want to watch the band and look at the players. Of course, I've always enjoyed like an Alice Cooper show and all the tricks and things that he does. It's very cool for me.
Okay. Well, we have some time left, and Pere wanted to ask you about something which I think it's important. I'm also going to ask one question regarding this. I do not like labels. In fact, I despise the metal labels of US power metal, progressive metal. I mean, we don't even know what kind of metal it is anymore. But it is true that Crimson Glory is usually labeled as USPM or US power metal, progressive metal, and they are usually bunched together with other bands or the classic bands from the 80s. And we wanted both Perry and me to make you one question regarding one of those bands and one of those bands that are labeled similarly to you. So, Perry.
Well, mainly our idea would be which USPN bands do you think that they should get more recognition? Because I've always felt like a band like Apollo Ra is somehow similar to Crimson, but with more thrash elements.
A band like what?
Apollo Ra, do you know
Who did
them?
you? No, never heard of them.
Okay.
Well,
I don't know.
Apollo Ra
I'm
was
not.
it's an American. It's just to make them to ubicate them. It's a band from I think it was they were from Maryland from the
Yeah.
80s, from the mid 80s. It's a band from the mid 80s, Apollo Ra.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I'd
anyway,
be
even if you
interested.
don't
I'd
know
be
them,
interested to
which
check them out. There's
hmm?
probably so many good bands out there that I'm not even aware of. I don't really, seek out and find and discover all the other bands. There's so many out there, but I just I like bands, like Vicious Rumors was always a band that came out around the time we did, and I still kind of follow them. It's cool to see they're still doing it after all these years, putting out records. They're probably on their 100th singer, but that's okay. Um, you know, Bands like Nevermore, it's cool to see they're making a return with a new singer. I always really liked Warrell Dane, and it's really cool that Jeff Loomis is bringing the band back. So um, there's so many bands from then that were colleagues, like Camelot. Friends of mine. We used to tour and do a lot of gigs and some tours with Camelot. I like to see how far they've come. Very proud of everything they've achieved. So, as far as other bands that haven't really got the recognition they deserve, I mean, I don't really know, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
Now I'm going to ask you, you're talking about Camelot, I'm going to ask you about another Florida band, which I am sure that unlike Apollo Rayo, I'm very sure you will know about them, um, which is Sabotage. I wanted to ask you, because in the beginning of times in Florida, in the Florida metal scene, there was basically Sabotage in Tampa and you in Sarasota. Sarasota and Tampa are very near, if I'm not mistaken, 1 hour by car or something like that. So,
Hmm.
did you, at the beginning of times, did you keep in touch with Savatage? Did the two bands have any kind of relation between Tampa and Sarasota, or not?
Yeah, a little bit. Like when we were young band, I remember seeing them play one concert out in a parking lot of a shopping center, and they were called Avatar before they
Yeah.
even named. So I saw them play as Avatar, and when they first changed the name and did their first record, Sirens. I remember once Dana and I were up in Tampa at some little record shop that sold kind of rare metal records, and I picked up a loudness record, like some Japanese import, and Dana picked up Sabotage Sirens, and we took it
Mhm.
home and we were listening to it, and we're like, wow, these guys sound really good. So we decided to go and record, our earliest demo, one of our earliest demos up at Morrisound, because Sabotage had recorded there. We liked the way their record sounded, so we're like, we got to go up and do our stuff there at Morrisound. So once we went up and we met the Morris brothers, we eventually did meet Dan Johnson from Par Records, and then we met some of the guys in Sabotage. I remember being over at Dan Johnson's house one time, and Chris Oliva and his wife stopped by, and Dan's like, "Hey guys, this is Chris Oliva." We're like, "Hey, nice to meet you, brother." And so, I mean, I met John many times through the years, Johnny Middleton. So, yeah, we've crossed paths
And
back in the early
because
days. They're cool guys. We kind of watched them grow. We watched them start and from their very early beginnings and to turn into the great band that they became.
okay.
And we're going to be playing some of the same festivals this summer, so it'll be really cool to see them.
Okay, it's true. You're going to be together at some festivals. And in
Yeah.
fact, one question for you as and for Crimson Glory in general that has to do with everything, with all this sabotage thing. Sabotage was later involved. I mean, especially the Oliva brothers and especially John were very involved in the death metal stuff when the death metal scene started in Tampa. Sabotage helped many bands. I mean, Obituary, Cannibal Corpse, when they moved to Florida, they are always say that they're very indebted to Sabotage because they helped them and they were them with them. Obviously, not musically because musically it was a different stuff, but they helped
Yeah.
them somehow. Did Crimson Glory also was somehow involved with the death metal bands of Tampa or not?
No, not really. I mean, other than the fact that we did a lot of recording at Morrisound with Jim and Tom Morris, and at the time Scott Burns, was assistant engineer on some of our sessions. So we met Scott, super cool guy. And Scott Burns became the guy at Morrisound that ended up working with a lot of these death metal bands and producing them, and he became like a very well known guy in the whole death metal scene. And so, I'm friends, with Kelly Schaefer from Atheist. We've been longtime friends. So of course, we always have supported each other, even though they do something more death metal and what we do is more prog metal. But I have a lot of respect for all these guys and what they do, and bands like Kelly's band and bands like Death, tremendous.
Okay. Pere, do you have any more question?
Not from my side.
Okay. So, well, that's the end of the interview because we are on time. It was we basically 14 minutes, which were
Hmm.
scheduled. So I just have to say thank you very much, Ben, for attending Stairway to Rock. Uh, we wish you a lot of success in this tour, a lot of success with this awesome album, which is Chasing the Hydra, and see you in Spain this summer.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, guys. Great talking with you. See you this summer.
See
Okay,
you. Take care.
see
Okay,
you.
bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.